אחת שאלתי מאת אדוני, אחת שאלתי אותה אבקש, אחת שאלתי מאת אדוני, אחת שאלתי אותה אבקש. שבתי שבתי בבית אדוני, שבתי שבתי כל ימי חיי, לחזות בנועם אדוני ולבקר בהיכלו, לחזות בנועם אדוני, to gaze upon the beauty of Adonai. One thing, I ask you, Adonai, to be with you all of my life. One thing, I ask you, Adonai, to be with you all of my life.
Boker Tov, good morning, Shana Tova, Shabbat Shalom. We're back together to sing, to pray, to meditate, to learn. Let's turn in our Machzor to page 136. Blessed are we, blessed our gathering, as we open our hearts to the voice of the shofar. Happy are we who hear its call to return, the sacred trumpet of Teshuvah. Blessed are we, held close by an ancient sound, the echoes of Lador Vador from generation to generation. Happy are we, rising to the joyful cry of a new year. Blessed are we who hear in these blasts of sound the voice of community. Happy are we who know its embrace, its season of celebration, its quest for connection and purpose. Holy is this gift of community. Blessed the act of belonging. Let's turn to page 142. If you are able, please rise. We pray together, Baruch Atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, Yotzer or uvorei choshech, Hosei shalom uvorei et hakol, Or olam be'otzar hayim, Orot me'ofel amar vaihi. Hameir la'aretz v'ladarim aleha barachamim, Uvtuvo mechadesh b'chol yom tamid ma'aseh v'reshit. Ma rabu ma'asecha Adonai, kulam b'chokma asita, mal'al ha'aretz kinyanecha. Titbarach Adonai Eloheinu, al shevach ma'aseh yadecha, ve'al me'orei or sha'asita yafarucha sela.
אור חדש על ציון תאיר, ונזכה כולנו מהרה לאורו. ברוך אתה אדוני, יוצר המאורות.
Love abundant, love unstinting. Our God, you have enfolded us in love. Tender compassion beyond all bounds, your precious gift. Our fathers and mothers gave you their trust, and you gave them Torah, laws by which to live. For their sake, teach us as well. Grace us with your guidance. Loving Father, merciful Mother of us all, grant us clear understanding that we may listen, learn, and teach, preserve, practice, and fulfill with love every lesson of your Torah. May learning your Torah light up our eyes. May our hearts embrace your mitzvot. Unite us in love and reverence for you, that we may never feel ashamed of our deeds. We have trusted in your great and holy name. Now let us celebrate at last the joy of your salvation. Bring us in peace from the four corners of the earth. Lead us with upright pride to the land that is ours. For you are a God of miracles and wonders. From all the peoples of the earth, you sought us out and brought us near to your great enduring truth. So with love, we acknowledge and proclaim that you are one.
ברוך אתה אדוני, הבוחר בעמו ישראל, באהבה. שמע ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד. ברוך שם כבוד מלכותו לעולם ועד. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך. ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Page 163. Where does Israel get the courage, the chutzpah, to go on believing in redemption in a world that knows mass hunger, political exile, and war? How can Jews testify to hope and human value when they have been continuously persecuted, hated, expelled, destroyed? Out of the memories of Exodus.
מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש, נורת אילות וספר. שירה חדשה שיבחו גאולים, לשמך על שפת הים. יחד כולם הודו והמליכו ואמרו, אדוני מלך לעולם ועד. צור ישראל קומה בעזרת ישראל, ופדה חינומך יהודה וישראל. גואלנו אדוני צבאות שמו, קדוש ישראל. ברוך אתה אדוני גל ישראל.
166.
Adonai, שפתי תפתח, ופי יגיד תהילתך. Adonai, open my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu ואלוהי אבותינו ואמותינו, אלוהי אברהם, אלוהי יצחק, ואלוהי יעקב, אלוהי שרה, אלוהי רבקה, אלוהי רחל, ואלוהי לאה, האל הגדול, הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון, גומר חסדים טובים וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. זוכרנו לחיים, מלך חפץ בחיים, וכותבנו בספר החיים, למענך אלוהים חיים. מלך חוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני. מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה, אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל. רב להושיע, מוריד הטל, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לישני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה. מי כמוך אל הרחמים, זוכר יצוריו לחיים ברחמים, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיי הכל.
Over the last half of year or so, we feel like we're in this prayer, the Unatanek Tokef, where we say, on Rosh Hashanah, it is decided, on Yom Kippur, it is sealed, how many will die, who shall live, who will die. So much death, almost 200,000 in America alone. We know, as our prayer says, that we are mortal, our origin is dust, and so is our end. But we feel this chaos around us. Is that God decreeing this for us? I don't think so. I think a key to our prayer is found here, where it says that all of us pass before God like sheep before a shepherd. A shepherd in ancient Jewish literature, like in the Psalms, is the one who takes care of each individual sheep tenderly, knows their number, watches out for them. So that God is hiding, if you will, in this chaos, counting us, calling us there to comfort us. So we find these dichotomies in this prayer between this transcendent God, but also the chaos around us, and this comforting God calling us to return. And so we begin the Unatane Tokef on page 174. Let us proclaim the power of this day, a day whose holiness awakens deepest awe and inspires highest praise for your dominion. For your throne is a throne of love, your reign a reign of truth. In truth, you are judge and plaintiff, counselor and witness. You inscribe and seal, you record and recount. You remember all that we have forgotten. And when you open the book of memories, it speaks for itself. For every human hand leaves its mark, an imprint like no other. And so a great shofar will cry Tekiah. A still small voice will be heard. Angels in a whirl of fear and trembling will say, "Behold the day of judgment, for they too are judged. And your eyes, even they are not blameless. All who come into the world pass before you like sheep before their shepherd. As a shepherd considers the flock, when it passes beneath the staff, you count and consider every life. You set bounds, you decide destiny, you inscribe judgments."
בראש השנה ייכתבון, וביום צום כיפור ייחתמון. בראש השנה ייכתבון, וביום צום כיפור ייחתמון. כמה יעברון וכמה יברעון. בראש השנה ייכתבון, וביום צום כיפור ייחתמון. מי יחיה ומי ימות, מי וקיצו ומי לא וקיצו, מי ואש ומי ומים, מי וחרב ומי וחיה, מי ורע ומי וצמא. בראש השנה ייכתבון, וביום צום כיפור ייחתמון. מי ורש ומי במגפה, מי בחניקה ומי בסקילה. בראש השנה ייכתבון, וביום צום כיפור ייחתמון. מי השנה ייכתבון, וביום צום כיפור ייחתמון. מי ינוח ומי ינוע, מי שקט ומי יתערב, מי ישלב ומי יתייסר, מי יני ומי ישר, מי ישפל ומי ירום. ותשובה ותפילה וצדקה מעבירין את רע הגזרה.
Page 180. But through return to the right path, through prayer and righteous giving, we can transcend the harshness of the decree. You are everything that we praise you for, slow to anger, quick to forgive. You do not wish the death of sinners, but urge them to return from their ways and live. Until the day of death, you wait for them. You accept them at once if they return. Since you created us, you know our impulses. We are but flesh and blood. Adam Yesodome Afar, we who are mortal, our origin is dust, and so is our end. We wear out our lives to get our bread, like broken vessels, like withered grass, like a flower that must fade. A shadow moving on, a cloud passing by, mere dust on the wind, a dream that flies away. But for you, ever-living sovereign, time has no limits. Your presence, unbounded by days and years, is everywhere. A glorious mystery none can decipher. Your name is worthy of you, and you are worthy of your name. And our name you have linked with yours. Page 184.
נקדש את שמך בעולם, כשם שמקדישים אותו בשמי מרום, ככתוב על יד נביאך, וקרא זה אל זה ואמר, קדוש, 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 אדוני צבאות, מלוך כל הארץ כבודו, אדיר אדירנו, אדוני אדוננו, מדיר שמך, מדיר שמך בכל הארץ, ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו. אחד הוא אלוהינו, הוא אבינו מלכנו, הוא מושיענו והוא ישמיענו ברחמיו לעיני כל חי. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, ימלוך אדוני לעולם, אלוהיך ציון לדור ודור, הללויה, לדור ודור נגיד גודלך, ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש ושבחך, אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש לעולם ועד. כי אל מלך גדול וקדוש אתה.
Page 192.
קדוש אתה ונורא שמך, ואין אלוה מבלעדיך, ככתוב, ויגבר אדוני צבאות במשפט, ואל הקדוש נקדש בצדקה. ברוך אתה אדוני המלך
continue privately, page 208 through page 218. If you have the Machzor, let your eyes wander if you want to. Read the commentary, read the interpretations, pray the prayers of your heart.
Sim shalom, sim shalom, sim shalom, Torah uveracha.
I want to take this opportunity to thank Stacy, the board, and the clergy of Temple B'nai Or for allowing me to speak to you today. When Stacy called me about speaking for the High Holiday Appeal, I was stunned that she would ask me. And it took me a few weeks to finally say yes. And at that time, I really reflected on my past, my Jewish heritage, and how I got here today. And I want to point out 4 things today. And when we get to the 4th thing, you'll know what I'm asking for. The first was my first experience when I was 13 years old. I finally got the opportunity to go to the temple and sit in a big sanctuary for the high holidays. My parents didn't have a lot of money, and I begged for my bar mitzvah that I got to sit in the big temple, in the big room. And finally the day came, and I sat down next to my father and surrounded by cousins and aunts and uncles, and I noticed a piece of paper sitting on the pulpit, on the chair, and it had my father's name on it, and it was a card, and it had pieces where you could tear back amounts of money to donate to the temple. And I was offended. I was so upset. I'm like, it's supposed to be the time of reflection, the time of prayer, and here they are asking for money. A few hours later, as the service was coming to an end, I didn't understand a word. It was all in Hebrew. I still don't understand Hebrew. Some old guy gets up, and he comes to the bima, and he starts talking about the need for money. And I sat there and I said, it will be a cold day in hell before I ever came before a synagogue asking for money. Well, it's not a cold day in hell, but it sure feels like hell out there. What a crazy world we're in, and here I am doing the High Holiday Appeal. But before I continue, I have a confession I would like to make. And I guess there's no better place to make a confession than here with all of you. My confession is we don't come to temple anymore. We really, for the last 3 years, with our kids living in Chicago and New York, us spending a lot of time in Napa Valley, we missed the high holidays last year. We spent Rosh Hashanah in Chicago with a pregnant daughter. We spent Yom Kippur in Napa Valley. And so we've lost touch with the daily function of our synagogue. But it doesn't mean we've lost connection to the people that come here and to the mission that this synagogue provides to us. So when Liz and I think about our charitable contributions, the synagogue is always number 1 on the list of charities we donate to. It's an organization, a temple, a community that we need and we love. Let me tell you another story. This story is more related to what I do for a living. I was in a vineyard with a 70-plus-year-old wine grower, he likes to call himself. He's a grape grower, and he's beautiful grapes. He just replanted his most famous vineyard. And I'm like, what are you doing? Why would you spend so much time and money replanting a vineyard when you're over 70 years old? You'll never reap the benefits. He said, Gary, I'm not doing it for me. I'm doing it for future generations. And today I'm talking to you about future generations. The synagogue is not for me today necessarily in our lifestyle, but it is for you and your family going forward. And if that's not enough, I have one more appeal to make. And that's when I look on the wall at the plaque, I see my father-in-law, my mother, and my father. It's the memories of the people that have come before us that we remember here during the high holidays and during the anniversary of their passing. that we need this congregation, this temple, this building, this community to be strong, to continue to grow, and continue to serve this community. So on behalf of Liz, myself, and the rest of the Fish family, I request, I beg, I hope that you treat this synagogue, whether you're coming regularly or whether you're not coming, as part of your community and a fabric of your community that you need and want to support. So with that, Shana Tova, a happy, and more importantly in this time of craziness, healthy New Year. Thank you very much.
We come again to Avinu Malkeinu. We often sing these words and don't think about the meaning. Avinu Malkeinu chonenu va'anenu ki ein banu ma'asim. Avinu Malkeinu, our parent, our ruler, our sovereign, answer us with grace. Grace is overflowing love that God continues to give, but we don't deserve it all the time because ki ein banu ma'asim, our deeds are wanting. We try, but we can never be perfect. But we know that God still welcomes us back like a parent, like a loving parent. Aseh imanu tzedakah v'chesed v'hoshienu, save us through acts of justice and love.
Avinu Malkeinu, Shema Koleinu. Avinu Malkeinu,
I think a word that could sum up the last 6 months is oi. You can say it or just say it. It'll make you feel better. Oi. Oi. But I still have hope. I don't have optimism. I have hope. There's a difference. My teacher, Rabbi Michael Marmer, wrote this in 2008 during another recession. He wrote, "To be optimistic means to believe that everything is heading towards a happy ending. To have hope means to believe that whatever happens, a way of coping and building towards the future may be found." These are not the best days to be buying stock in optimism. He wrote what was going on in 2008, but I'll say COVID, wildfires from global warming, hurricanes, depression, racial injustice, destruction of democratic norms. Back to Marmer. All of these are real, and there is no reason to think that a happy ending is the only possible way all this will work out. Despite this, some of us just seem to be hardwired for optimism, convinced that things will work out well. In my experience, the optimists and the pessimists are separated by personality rather than intelligence. Some folks wake up in the morning with a wow, and others with an oi. But hope is different. The Hebrew word for hope, tikvah, has two possible origins. Some suggest that it's linked to the word for a pool, connected to a mikveh, a ritual bath. Hope is a resource, a pool, a solace, a support. There is another possible etymology for the Hebrew word tikvah. It is connected to a cord or a thread. The famous red thread, which makes an appearance in the book of Joshua, is called a tikvah. If the first meaning of the word looks to sources of support, the second kind of hope is symbolized by a thin thread leading from a complicated present to a possible future. Hope is about having a vision about what's possible. Hope, says the psychologist David Feldman in Psychology Today, is about agency. It's about having this vision of a possible future and having the strength, the dignity, the planning to know how you could possibly get there. David Feldman says you need three conditions for hope. You need goals, you need pathways, which are like a plan, and you need agency. You need to be able to do it. You can't have restraints. Hope is about knowing what ought to be, even though we live in a world as it is. We know how things can be, and we do our part as Jews, as humans, to get us there. There's an example in the Torah. It says in Devarim, in the book of Deuteronomy, "There shall be no needy among you, since the eternal your God will bless you in the land that the eternal your God is giving you as a hereditary portion." But then just a few verses later, it says, "For there will never cease to be needy ones in your land, which is why I command you, open your hand to the poor and needy kin in your land." And so we have a contradiction here. God will make sure there is no needy, and there will always be needy among you. So what is that? It's seeing the world as it is and seeing the world as it should be at the same time. The ideal versus the reality. Because if you think about it, the second statement is a truism. Even if we do our best, there will still be people less well off. But we have hope. We have vision. We are not scared of reality or think that the world is going to hell. And we go out and we do our work. That is hope. That is how Jews see the world. The Rambam in the Middle Ages wrote, "I believe with full faith in the coming of the Messiah, and though he tarry, I anticipate him, Nonetheless, on every day when he may come, I believe that things can someday be better, he's saying. Or as Rabbi Zalman Schachter Shalomi puts it, may it be the divine will that I believe with perfect faith in the fixing of the world, tikkun olam, the concept that the world can be fixed and is becoming alive, and that besides coming to life, the world will come to a process, a consciousness and feeling, and as such will become a fitting vessel for the revelation of the divine will. Or, as the thinker Stephen Schwarzschild wrote, indeed, what is asserted is that the universe is always infinitely different from what God wants it to be and what we must therefore make it, insofar as this lies within and perhaps beyond our power. We have this vision of the world as it should be. That is hope. We have the ability to work together to make a plan, a pathway to get there. That is hope. Hope gets us out the door in the morning. Hope for our children's future. Hope for the Jewish community. Hope for personal growth. Hope for Israel to be a light to the nations in peace. The national anthem of Israel is called Hatikvah, the hope. A story from a time that was not filled with hope, but yet was. Hovering above the pit from the Hasidic Tales of the Holocaust by Yafa Eliach. It was a dark, cold night in the Janowska Road camp. Suddenly, a shout pierced through the air. You are to evacuate the barracks immediately and report to the vacant lot. Anyone remaining inside will be shot on the spot. Pandemonium broke out in the barracks. People pushed their way to the doors while screaming the names of friends and relatives. In a panic-stricken stampede, the prisoners ran in the direction of a big open field. Exhausted, trying to catch their breath, they reached the field. In the middle were two huge pits. Suddenly, with their last drop of energy, the inmates realized where they were rushing on that cursed night. Once more, the cold, healthy voice roared in the night. Each of you dogs who values his miserable life and wants to cling to it must jump over one of the pits and land on the other side. Those who miss will get what they rightfully deserve. And then a sound of gunfire. The voice trailed off into the night, followed by a wild, coarse laughter. It was clear to the inmates that they would all end up in the pits. Even at the best of times, it would have been impossible to jump over them, all the more so that cold, dark night. The prisoners standing on the edge of the pits were skeletons, feverish from disease and starvation, exhausted from slave labor and sleepless nights. Though the challenge that had been given them was a matter of life and death, they knew that for the SS guards it was merely another devilish game. Among the thousands of Jews in that field was the rabbi of Bluzhov, Rabbi Israel Spira. He was standing with a friend, a free thinker from a large Polish town whom the rabbi had met in the camp. A deep friendship had developed between them. Spira, of all efforts to jump over the pits, all our efforts to jump over the pits are in vain. We only entertain the Germans and their collaborators. Let's sit down in the pits and wait for the bullets to end our wretched existence, said the friend to the rabbi. My friend, said the rabbi, as they were walking in the direction of the pits, we must obey the will of God. If it was decreed from heaven that pits be dug and we be commanded to jump, pits will be dug and jump we must. And if God forbid we fail and fall into the pits, we will reach the world of truth a second later after our attempt. So, my friend, we must jump. The rabbi and his friend were nearing the edge of the pits. The pits were rapidly filling up. The rabbi glanced down at his feet, the swollen feet of a 53-year-old Jew ridden with starvation and disease. He looked at his young friend, a skeleton with burning eyes. As they reached the pit, The rabbi closed his eyes and commanded in a powerful whisper, "We are jumping." When they opened their eyes, they found themselves standing on the other side of the pit. "Spiro, we are here, we're alive." The friend repeated this over and over again while warm tears streamed from his eyes. "Spiro, for your sake, I am alive. Indeed, there must be a God. Tell me, Rebbe, how did you do it?" "I was holding on to my ancestral merit. I was holding on the coattails of my father, my grandfather, my great-grandfather of blessed memory," said the rabbi, and his eyes searched the black skies above. "Tell me, my friend, how did you reach the other side of the pit?" "I was holding on to you," replied the rabbi's friend. "I was holding on to you." That thread, that's what hope is. That thread that can pull us along even though we know it might be impossible. The world as it could be, that vision, is what is pulling us, that thread, that tikvah. Reverend Victoria Safford writes, "Our mission is to plant ourselves at the gates of hope, not the prudent gates of optimism, which are somewhat narrower, nor the stalwart, boring gates of common sense, nor the strident gates of self-righteousness, which creak on shrill and angry hinges. People cannot hear us there, they cannot pass through. Nor the cheerful, flimsy gates of everything is going to be all right, but a different, sometimes lonely place of truth-telling about your own soul first and of all of its condition. The place of resistance and defiance, from which you see the world both as it is and as it could be, as it will be. The place from which you glimpse not only struggle, but joy in the struggle. And we stand there, beckoning and calling, telling people what we're seeing, asking them what they see. And so, where can we find hope today? Just in Jewish living. Our synagogue is still open. We're still learning Torah. We're still praying. We're still helping each other. We're still mourning with each other. Our Jewish life goes on. Where else can we find hope today? Voting. We still live in a democracy, although an imperfect democracy. We as citizens have the power to make change, voting, marching, demonstrating, supporting, being an ally. That gives me hope. We at Temple B'nai Or are joining with the Religious Action Center in Washington, D.C., the Religious Action Center in New Jersey to get out the vote. We want everyone here to vote. We are joining together with community organizing with New Jersey Together, joining in coalition with our neighbors, the churches of Morristown, to make change locally. What gives us hope? Our young give us hope. Every day, looking into the eyes of the young, we see that we need to make a better world for them. Hope. It's not the same thing as optimism. It's not the idea that things will get better. It's a more realistic idea that things can get better. So while I started out our sermon with an oi, it's still good to have an oi. I end with a vision of what the world can be. Shana Tova. Before our closing song, Achat Sha'alti, again on page 131, I want to remind you to join us for our interactive Torah service at 11:30 on Zoom. We want to see all of your faces. We'll be calling a community aliyah, those to come up to invoke blessings before and after the Torah reading, but we invite this year people who've overcome an illness or a challenge over the last year. And we'll also be offering our special words of blessing for the non-Jews among us who support the Jewish people. So let us sing together on page 131.
אחת שאלתי מאת אדוני, אחת שאלתי ואבקש, אחת שאלתי מאת אדוני, אחת שאלתי אותה אבקש.
Shana Tova.
שנה טובה, שבת שלום.
Shabbat Shalom.